Good morning. This is Jeff Cohen and Destiny Hans at Ladenburg Thalmann. Thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Nano-x Imaging, which is a Israeli-based imaging company. And with us to talk about the company is Ran Poliakine, who's the founder, chairman, and CEO. Ran, thanks for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and very happy to be here today. Let me tell you the incredible story of Nano-x, which is truly a unique story, given we believe what's going on in the world post-COVID-19. And we'll share with you some of the things that you already know, but also some of the things that maybe the audience that already listened to us before may find interesting. We changed a bit the presentation to give you the bigger context. So really, I mean, in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of Nano-x, you also before maybe need to understand what I'm doing. So I'm really trying to, I mean, I'm a serial entrepreneur and I'm dealing very much in things that can make a big impact and a good impact in the world. Specifically, trying to address real human pain points and healthcare needs. I'm doing it for many years in some companies, and Nano-x is a great example for how, if we come together, we can actually do something very, very good. So one narrative that I want to leave with you today is really that, you know, it's very hard to make, especially in the world today, to make a big impact in people's lives globally without getting together. And what you see in our presentation, that while we have a very, very interesting technology, which I'm sure people will find disruptive, the key business approach is really to create an ecosystem, and the business model is such that create a full chain of participants that can really enjoy coming together from this little innovation of Nano-x. And only this is how we can make a big impact. In terms of what we did, it's very, very simple. We have a very simple execution plan, which is based on a known need. I mean, there is a need to scan globally people in technology that can tell you if something wrong. We call it early detection. What we're trying to do, we're trying to scan globally to protect one's health. How can we protect one's health? Of course, if we scan someone in South Carolina or in Nigeria, and we can immediately see something that is early on in terms of cancer, etc., we can take care of it with much less pain and much less money. But also this data is sitting as a pool of human data from all over the world that can then teach us a lot and give us hints or indication what's going on. You know, the popular word these days is big data, AI, etc. We're actually doing it. So again, we're trying to scan globally to protect one's health. To do that, we actually need to have a network that, you know, that is global, and the network that is addressing the biggest next need. I mean, today, despite the fact that, you know, full body scanner or X-ray or CTs are not really so much available in terms, according to the WHO, 2/3 of the world population do not have any meaningful access to medical imaging. And I want the audience to realize this technology was invented by William Röntgen over 100 years ago. Still today, believe it or not, 2/3 of the world population do not have the basic access to scanning, which is the major, I would say, indication for what we call early detection or prevention. Even in the rest, 1/3 of the world, you really use those devices for acute cares, and it's sitting normally in a basement of a big hospital, and you need to wait because there are urgency and you need to wait long in order to get access. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to move early detection from theoretical idea to practicality. And again, we'll talk about how we're going to do it. Now, if you ask yourself, you know, excuse me, I understand that technology was invented more than 100 years ago, but why is it so inaccessible? Maybe people do not need it. The answer is no. People need it absolutely. If you talk to any physician, even WHO and everybody agrees that in order to keep early detection as a flag of the next generation healthcare, you need medical imaging. The reality, it's too expensive to buy, expensive and complex to operate, and you need not only infrastructure, but you need also a very skilled technician to do that. So what if you could ease all this process and create accessibility and affordability? Would that change the scene, I would say? And this is a slide where I want to give a nice analogy of what Nano-x did technology-wise, which is very similar to the movement from Edison light to LED light. If you think about Edison light, this is an amazing invention. Basically, it's a filament that you push enough resistance through the filament and you see light. And the LEDs also provide light. So both of them providing light. However, one is truly analog and very, very, I would say, with lifetime that is challenging, etc. And the other one is totally digital. Digital and cold. You don't need to generate heat in order to create light. This is exactly what we do in Nano-x. Just for the audience again, X-ray is being generated by, 3,000 degrees C or 2,000 degrees C of filament that is heated up, and the bombardment of electrons in a very, very aggressive environment to create this X-ray. We're doing exactly the same, only the electron that we're providing coming from a cold cathode, which means LED-like emitter of electrons that we can control totally digitally, and that gives us a lot of advantages from flexibility, but also from cost. Instead of cooling this 3,000 degrees C, which is almost like a little nuclear power plant with oil, etc., we have something very small that we hardly need to cool practically. And that makes the difference between a tube that costs maybe $50,000 to what we believe will be our cost in mass production of $100. So again, when you move from $50,000 to $100, you can change the world. And still, both Edison and LED provide light, the same way that both filament, old tube, and Nano-x new tube provide X-ray. And that's a key point for the audience to understand why this is a new time for now. So this is really what I spoke about. The next slide, talking about the traditional legacy tube, which is based on a filament that is being brought up to 2,000 degrees C, very, very cumbersome, and you need a basin of oil to really cool it down. And the beautiful and also the sad story here that nothing has changed in 126 years in the source of X-ray itself, while the remaining healthcare system became digital, and very, very sophisticated. What we do, we take the semiconductor, and we have 100 million filament or electron gun that are nanometrics. And this is really our technology. Again, it's nanotechnology that provides many, many electrons that can generate the X-ray fully digital. And it's in a process of semiconductor, the same way that the Intel chip replaced the huge transistors, okay? It's exactly the same narrative. This is small, very, very low cost to produce, and therefore, totally, I would say, 21st century. And that's what we bring to the table, and that's not coming easy. I mean, this is a technology that was developed and originated in Japan for many, many years with Sony. And when we came to the project, we actually came into an almost mature kind of technology. We just adjusted this technology into semiconductor and wafer to a MEMS, we call it, okay? And that's actually the key component, which is what we call, by the way, in technology, deep technology. This is not something that someone can go in the lab and come out and say, hey, eureka, I got it. No, this is many, many years and thousands of years of engineering, huge amount of know-how, a lot of patents, and that's what we bring to the table. And I think that's why many of our partners got convinced that this is really could become the standard of care of the future, and that's really what we're striving to do. And we're doing this not only by providing technology, but also providing an open source, essentially, to anyone that wants to join us in this journey. Now, in terms of the company, again, Sony initiated, this is a little bit of a roadmap for the audience. Sony initiated this project for actually nanotechnology television. I mean, we have many, many years of development since we took it on. A lot of patents family. The FDA cleared the Nano-x cart, and we just submitted the Nano-x multi-source system. Fuji is one of our leading and early OEM partners. SK Telecom is coming on board as one of the largest shareholders, but also they're bringing their expertise of semiconductors and the notion that telecommunication companies today shifting to healthcare, because healthcare of the 21st century is more IT than anything else, if you think about it. I mean, from HIPAA compliance to, the electronic medical records, to the need to share and utilize AI software and all kinds of imaging software. So telecommunication is much needed in terms of bandwidth and communication. SK, if you check, is not only the second largest company in South Korea, but also one of the leading companies for the 5G revolution. And that's what you need if you want to push from Nigeria or South Carolina a file to a physician in Starbucks to review. You need 5G, or you need a very quick network to upload this to a safe platform that can deliver downwards to radiologists, but also to AI services to do annotation. We'll touch upon it. So again, in terms of the narrative, again, the system that we're providing starts with the deep technology on the left side. This is Nano-x source, we call it. This is a semiconductor that provides electrons on demand versus the filament of the analog Röntgen system. Because of that, we can put it inside a tube that is a very low cost and very compact tube that is fully digital for the first time. It's not something you need to start up after 20 minutes and it's working. You can shut it on and off, milliseconds. These tubes are coming together with some other tubes in a geometrics at the demand of the system. In our case, it's multiple tubes in an arc. And this arc is now becoming a system. So we can control and orchestrate the position of the patient versus the arc. This is the bed that is moving. And the projection that are optimizing the amount of radiation with what exactly we're trying to project. So if you have multiple projections from different angles, essentially you have a 3D image. This is which is very, very needed for radiologists to see in 3D what's going on, okay? Because of the fact that our patient and our first wave of network is 15,000 units globally, are sitting away from radiologists sometimes, there is a need to upload this to the cloud, and that will enable not only remote diagnosis, but also sharing expert opinion, second opinion, AI annotation services, etc. And that's a very, very big part of the full solution that provide instant and very high professional diagnosis that is much needed to anyone, regardless if you're sitting in South Africa or in New York City. Okay, so just to summarize, this is our hardware piece. You understand now we have 4 components to it, but basically this is what we made. We also talked about it until we showed it at the RSNA show of last year, and that was when the flood started, because finally radiologists as well as technologists managed to understand what we're talking about and saw real images that radiologists validated as very, very good images that are taken. And it's all because we have a digital system, digital, all-round digital, not only the image, but also the X-ray source, multi-source, multi-modalities, small footprint. The cost is so small that our business model is to connect physicians and clinicians into the service for no cost other than paper scan. We'll talk about it when I talk about the business model. And that enables really a very simple architecture, a very small room. You don't need a basement. You don't need a huge shielding place. It's it's working with 110 or 220. And overall, you're bringing it from the basement of a big hospital into the community doctor. And that's the way we envision the annual screening test that you're going to do or you're doing already with your physician at any visit. Now, in terms of our bigger goal, I mean, this technology, because of all those features, will enable us to significantly higher availability and accessibility of imaging services. And again, going back to the beginning, in order to provide a better healthcare, something that is much more informed and immediate, medical imaging is needed. There are no doubt about it. The problem is lacking, the healthcare system lacking accessibility and affordability. That's exactly what we believe that with this innovation we can solve, and that's a big deal actually. So with that in mind, we have three pillars of the way we scale our technology. And again, we're not doing technology for technology. We're making solutions for people. And that's something that is very important in the way we think. And, every one of our partners and every one of our employees, regardless of their room or role in the company, they think, how can we do good? What are the purpose of being for this company? And it's really to disrupt and improve healthcare worldwide through this technology and partnership. So the first one is the product, the hardware. This is Nano-x ARC, which is ready for production, waiting for regulatory approvals in different countries. We have many videos on our website. You can see that we're ready to go. We have an amazing product that looks great, very, very light, and nothing like what you would imagine as a big full body scanner, well designed, by the way, and that's ready. The second one is the business model. Our business model, again, the primary business model is that we want to make it like a Xerox machine. We do not sell you the machine. We want you to commit, you clinician, you community center, healthcare center. We want you to tell us that you can scan X scans per day per X dollar per scan. And that's okay. For instance, I think yesterday or the day before we announced a deal in Nigeria, which is West Africa. And there we have agreed to deploy 1,000 units on our account. But the customers there, they committed via a letter of credit and contract to scan 10 scans per day at $7 per scan, and for 250 days per year. And that gives us an amazing ROI, but also it's a cost that is maybe a fracture of the cost of the average medical imaging in the world today. And the reason, again, the cost of the product. So that's really the MSaaS business model. The other one is really licensing. I mean, we're very open. We believe that LED will prevail, okay? Our LED, extra LED will prevail the old filament. So we are inviting everybody, I mean, the big companies to take our tube or chip and play with it. And if they succeed, just to give us some royalties. And that's a secondary business model that is started with Fuji, and now we have evaluation with many, many companies. The third one is clearly as a medical device company, we need to get everything ready when we go to business. That includes regulatory paths, training, the right location, supervision, and that's a big organization that we have and we're building right now that includes regulation, but also many other things to set up a business that is smoothly run. Again, think about it as a service business, okay? And the service provider are not us, but our partners actually, okay? So that's very, very interesting, I think, to notice as well. In terms of production, in the last year, we spent a lot of money and a lot of effort to get ready. And there are three areas of production ready that we want to talk about. One is a semiconductor, and we'll talk about it. We're ready now in scales that will enable us to fulfill our goals for next year, but we're extending our capacity dramatically because we do believe that every clinician at the end of the day will have nano system, and that will require a lot of chips. The second one is those light bulbs that now cost $100 versus $50,000, and that's what we're doing. It's almost like we're doing it through subcontractors that are good in doing tubes, only they're using a chip inside. And the third one is really a very robust HIPAA compliance and privacy compliance Nano-x Cloud that is not only enabling the uploading of massive amount of data, like really massive amount, but also spreading that between radiologists, insurance companies, AI annotation services, etc., in an efficient way, and also create a transaction. Because at the end of the day, dear audience and investors, the money is being made through the cloud via transactions. And that's a very robust system that we are very proud of that we needed to get done. So the first one is really the chip, and the chip is made in a very, very clean environment. We designed our own MEMS and construction building from fab, from ground up, all the way to maturity. It's a huge place in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of capacity. It's going to be open in Korea later on this year. We also have some fab that is, this fab is, we just invested $45 million this year, and it's going to open operational mid-2020. It's a big, if you know clean rooms, it's a very, very big facility. In the meantime, we have also a temporary fab that we rent, but all this equipment that you see here operating, it's our equipment, and it's done in a clean environment. Again, state-of-the-art teams that are Korean with experience in MEMS, working for Nano-x now and doing exactly that. In terms of the capacity, this temporary fab is taking care of at least 40% of the MEMS system, while the rest is still done in Japan. And by the year end, we're actually starting to move this to the major facility. The next one is tube. Again, this is almost like, I don't want to say commodity, but there are so many tube makers that if you look at it, all of the big guys actually, from GE to Siemens, Philips, they normally use the tube makers or a lot of tube makers because the knowledge is there. In our case, it's a little bit more complex. Still, we chose some vendors in Italy and Korea that are doing it for us. The challenge there is really, for the first time, we're putting a chip into this tube, but this is done, and the fight now is to get it to the $100 per piece, and that comes with volume, and we're pretty much equipped there. In terms of, so economy of scale is really targeting $100, and that's really what we have. So we have the chip, we have the ability to go very high in KVP, and we have two models right now, ceramic and glass, but really this is more of, I would say enabler, I wouldn't call it a core technology, but engineering, good engineering. Now it is easier and faster, according to our subcontractor, to integrate our chip into the tube. It's much more, I would say, a digital process versus analog. There is no black magic there. And that's something that's coming from the industry of semiconductor, and that's entail a potential for making the process much, much quicker and simpler and predictive, I would say. Again, the tube is done by third party, as I said, and it's pretty much there, so I don't want to emphasize too much, other than the fact that we can go digitally on the range of 100 kVp all the way down to 20 kVp, which is really the difference from looking at the soft tissue to hard tissue, as many of you, I'm sure, knows. The assembling of Nano-x ARC is intended to be with Foxconn. Foxconn, which is the largest manufacturer of the world, is of electronic project, as you know, invested in the company, and they committed to get us up to scale. Given the corona, COVID-19, we had to mitigate this plan because it was impossible to go to Taiwan, and we set up a secondary assembly fab in Israel, which is beautiful and very, very effective. The images here showed you that we have multiple products that are already in production line. This production line is also equipped with everything you need in order to submit to the FDA and other regulatory bodies like CE, etc., to get the right regulatory approval. And it's also 20 minutes from our headquarters, which is a big, big, I think, win. And it's also, I would say, 20 minutes from the biggest hospital in Israel that is collaborating with us. So all in all, it's good news. It will enable us to ship very soon units to our customers. Nano-x Cloud, again, I will not go into because I think people know cloud and platform. I would just say that our cloud is no different. And the main audience are, the AI annotation companies, radiologists, and hospital and doctors that have access to that. It's all connected. So every system that we ship has connectivity through the internet to the cloud. Again, everything is HIPAA compliant and very much ready for prime time. Business model, again, I will not spend too much time on that, but it's very, very disruptive in an industry that up to now for many, many years was capital intense in terms of capital equipment business model. We're shifting it to something that is SaaS model. We call it MSaaS, Medical Screening as a Service, which basically tells our customers, if you can propel your country with enough systems and provide us with enough scans per day for a minimum number of dollars per scan of $7 actually to $10, we can work with you. And that's taking away the biggest barrier of this industry, because up to now, a full body scanner can cost over, from $1 million to $3 million. We're coming up and say, we're going to place it, we're going to install it, we're going to service it. The only thing you need to do is to get your customers to use it. And that's something that we found very, very receptive to the levels that even before we had one unit shipped, we already have over 5,000 units that are spoken for contractually with letter of credit binding to that contract subject to acceptance test and regulatory approval. And we have additional about 5,000 units that are all 6,000. Actually, as of 2 days ago, we have more than 6,000 committed and another 5,000 between SK and USA Radiology, which is a network of radiologists backed by Siemens in the US. In terms of OEM, that's straightforward. It's a licensing technology. Again, the notion is that, LED replaced, Edison light. Nano-x will replace traditional filament. We don't want to be alone. We want to come together, and we offer everyone to work with us. And indeed, the big companies, which is, it's a huge shift for them because for years, they plan their product based on the hot filament. But we are trying to work with them very openly to show them that we're still doing X-ray, only much, much cheaper, much more efficient, and they should join this journey earlier than later. And we do have a lot of relationship with, I think, all of the big guys for sure. This is really a slide that I love a lot because it's not to show off the contract we already have, but rather show the approach of ecosystem and working together. And right now, Nano-x is focusing its effort in 3 areas. One is strategic partners that are getting, this list is going to get longer and longer as we go because we invite everyone to join this, consortium, if you want, of doing good in healthcare for the better. So we have SK, Fuji, Foxconn, many more to come. Then, since, 21st century healthcare is IT and AI centric, we managed to bring on board key and top software and AI service providers from Umbra that everybody knows, I think, in the US, but also companies like Brainomics and iMedic and Cure AI, and many more to come again. Those are the services that will enable us, let's say, through Umbra, indirectly access to millions and millions of EMRs, and through the services of AI, a smart annotation to the radiologist to say, hey, look, there is you should pay attention to this area. And that's something that we're not inventing, we're just connecting to our platform. And of course, on the right side, these are the partners that are going to work in the field. These are the trusted partners that we aligned our interests with because we're giving them our system for free and enable them to be very successful in what they're trying to do in their territories. And we are talking about Italy and Spain and Portugal and Taiwan and Australia and Korea and Vietnam and many, many countries. I would tell you that each one of those partners went through due diligence, and we believe that they are the right partner and they have the right motivation and very eager actually to get the systems to work in their training center first and thereafter in the field. Regulatory path is straightforward. I mean, we are already cleared the Nano-x card, which is important because it's not a commercial product right now, but this is really clear the concept of cold cathode technology versus filament. We submitted the multi-source system as planned, and basically we are getting ready to submit in many other countries that we have contract with, all with the intent and belief that early next year we're going to start shipping in mass, and next year will be the prime time and the year where we're going to validate our business model with many, many units that are scanning globally, with the emphasis of globally. Just to recap this presentation, so really, Nano-x is, the basis of it is really the proprietary technology, which again, you cannot underestimate the how deep this technology is. It's nanotechnology on a semiconductor chip, something that was built in Japan by Japanese expertise at Sony that we took on and spent another 9 years of making it as product, and now with the help of the Korean partners we have and investors, made it mature. So this is basically an X-ray source that is based on, the LED of X-ray source, okay? The result of this is a much lower cost, a much smaller imaging system in terms of footprint, which we expect will enable significantly higher availability and accessibility of the imaging service, which really addresses the biggest problem that physicians and even WHO are talking about in terms of getting to the next level of healthcare. And this is really what allowing really superior accessibility to medical data and analysis, And that's really actually connects the dot all the way to the big vision of, big data, AI, everything IT related to healthcare, sharing information, gathering information not from one doctor that is an expert, but from a community of benchmark cases that are all shared and access, subject to HIPAA compliance, to the world to learn from. And if we do that, we believe we can actually provide a very, very good one element of a better healthcare for the 21st century and maybe beyond. Now, in terms of tangible things that we're dealing with, I would like to touch upon 2021, and this is really the year of manufacturing ramp up, regulatory clearances, and you really continue to build the leadership team that you need to, in order to get this vision out and running. However, looking forward to 2022, you will start to see global deployment. You already know that we have many agreements and many committed partners, and our goal is really to put 15,000 units as the first wave. And I can tell you that our issue is not demand. We have huge demand, and the business model is compelling, and the ROI for all stakeholders is amazing. What we need to do now is really to bridge this gap between getting production and regulatory passes in different countries done, go through the training, deployment, the curve of learning, and then from early next year, you'll start to see us generating, scans and making a lot of, I would say, really propelling a lot of system in the world. And this is where we want to see Nano-x taking a dominant, in our opinion, position to be the leader provider of medical imaging that is connected to the cloud and shared with many ecosystem partners. And that's really a vision that we believe it's worth live for, because this is where we disrupt and change the landscape of medical imaging forever. And that's really what we came here to do today. So with that in mind, I want to thank you really for the time today, and hope that you will still be with us and look at what we're doing. We're very passionate about what we're doing, and hopefully we can prove that this is a worthwhile vision for all of us to stay tuned to. Thank you very much.
Ran, thank you very much for your time. We wish you all the best with the developments in the back half of the year. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone.